What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a crazy long time. Life happens, and sometimes it just like bends you over, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's been over a year since I posted anything to the podcast, and it's been like 2 years since I posted anything to this channel. But I'm back now, and there's a reason for that, which I will explain. The whole reason why I'm coming back and what prompted me to want to come back. And I've got a case that relates to what is going on and what's bringing me back out of my little gremlin cave. So I hope everything has been good. I hope everything has been great. But let's get into it. So let's roll that intro footage so we can get fucking going. Roll it. Is a crazy place. The internet has always been a crazy place. And I don't think people quite understand how crazy it can actually be and how damaging it can actually be. Some of you know, some of you don't know. My Tinder profile, of all things, recently went viral. And someone just took a picture of my Tinder and posted it somewhere. It may have started on Twitter, but it also may have started on Reddit. I don't know, but it is 30,000 retweets on one subreddit and like 30,000 on the Twitter. It's bananas. It's everywhere. And for the most part, they're nice comments or they're really funny comments. I say that I'm 6'8" and I'm 250 pounds and I eat meat, and like I just say that I'm this big barbarian woman. And a lot of the comments are cool. A lot of the comments are like, "Oh, my barbarian queen. This is the, where do I find her? Blah, blah, blah." Death by snoo stew is a very big one that I get. But not all of it. Not all of it is great. Some of it is horrible. There are some full threads, AR15.com, where it's just talking shit about me. It's talking shit about my body. It's talking shit that, well, if she's 35 and single, obviously she's not great. It's talking shit that like, oh, she's never going to have kids. If she have kids, they're going to come out with, mental deformities or physical deformities. Horrible things. And like, that shit kind of stings. Like, you can talk shit about my body. If you're talking shit about my body, I'm pretty sure you're just an incel in your basement. But like, the whole marriage thing hurts because I was married until October of last year. And then I wasn't. I probably won't have kids. I waited. I was really responsible my whole life with having kids or the thought of having kids. And so I never had kids because I was never in a position or with someone that I really wanted to have kids with. So they're right. I probably won't have kids. It's probably a little late. So those things hurt. And I'm not going to lie. I cried. When I read those, I definitely cried. But then I kind of started thinking about it. Like, they don't know me. They don't know my story. They're just talking shit about someone in a picture, which led me down this rabbit hole of thinking about cyberbullying. There's, you can Google her. I'm not going to throw her picture up here because I don't want anyone talking shit in the comments. But if you Google the ugliest person in the world, it is a woman with a very rare medical abnormality that causes her to look a very unique way. And she was dubbed the ugliest person in the world. How heartbreaking. How painful must it be to go through your life knowing that this is what everyone thinks about you? I mean, I only have half the internet thinking I'm hideous and it hurt my heart. But it goes even deeper than that. When we talk about teens don't have the ability, and young kids, not even teens, like 7th grade, like young kids don't have the ability to self-regulate those emotions, and they can get really out of control. The bullying, the name calling, the internal self-hatred that they experience as they're going through high school, and God forbid a picture or something gets leaked onto the internet, and high school kids are brutal. And unfortunately, it causes kids to kill themselves at an absurd rate. Me, I'm a little different. I can, I'll cry for a little bit because it got a little butthurt about it, but I'm able to brush it off and move on with my life. Or I'm able to turn off the internet and I don't care about it. But for the most part, like, not all kids can do that. Not all kids have the forethought to just be like, it's not a big deal. They're just people on the internet. And I feel like people don't realize that there are people behind those pictures. There was a couple of years ago, there was a trend where it was like, hey, so and so, your girlfriend is looking for you. Do you want me to, whatever. And it was a picture of a massively obese woman or a conventionally unattractive man. But it's like, imagine if that person were you. Imagine if you were that person that people were talking shit about. That would be devastating. Imagine you're on TikTok Live or Instagram Live or YouTube Live and you're 12, 13, your self-esteem is shit. You are getting validation from hundreds, maybe thousands of strangers on the internet, and you're on a live. And there's a bunch of people in that live hounding you to flash your chest. You don't want to because you know it's wrong and you're embarrassed and shy, but they're telling you that you're beautiful. And they're telling you that you're amazing and perfect, and they're begging you and begging you and begging you to show your boobs. And you make one wrong choice, one horrible decision to flash your breasts for 2 seconds. Unfortunately, in that comment stream or in that the live stream, there's a grown man who likes little girls. And he takes a screenshot. And then he proceeds to blackmail you to show him more. And when you don't, he participates in what's called sextortion. You don't give me what I want, I'm going to show all your friends and family and your classmates and whoever else these pictures. It goes on for years. Years of being blackmailed by this man. Your 12-year-old boobs are all over the internet, being downloaded hundreds, if not thousands of times a day. It gets leaked to your school. All your friends see it. And the bullying gets really bad. They start slut-shaming you, calling you a cam whore. You get beat up. Cops don't do anything. They say, just stay off the internet. If you don't want the attention, stay off the internet. A little bit of victim blaming if you ask me, but it's neither here nor there. And it just gets so much, and you already deal with anxiety and depression. So you're alone, you're being bullied, and it feels like your world is absolutely over because you're 12, you're 15 years old. You can't see past the nose on your face. You can't see past what's happening right in this moment. And so you hang yourself alone one night in your parents' home. And it's not until you're dead that people start taking it seriously. Unfortunately, this happens a lot. This isn't a story I made up either. This is the story and I'm going to talk about a couple of other stories at the end, but this is the story we're talking about. We're going to dive into the case of Amanda Todd. Amanda Todd was born on November 27th to Norm and Carol Todd, and she had an older brother, Christopher. I couldn't find his exact age, but she had an older brother. Her and her brother were really good friends growing up. She was described as a firecracker. She had a lot of energy. She was in hockey and gymnastics as she was growing up, and she loved to sing. As she got a little older, Amanda was diagnosed with ADD. Along with that comes anxiety. Unfortunately, with ADD in girls, anxiety and depression is a big part of it. Unfortunately, ADD goes completely undiagnosed in females a lot of the time because that hyperactivity isn't a part of it. It's the obsessing about one activity, perhaps singing. It's the obsessing about certain parts of their appearance, body dysmorphia, anxiety, that all comes a part of it. And for a little girl kind of coming into her own, that can be rough. And the bullying at school was even rougher. She tried to overcompensate for her ADD by making self-deprecating jokes to make people laugh. But unfortunately, they weren't laughing with her, they were laughing at her. And somewhere deep down, she knew that. So she started to get a little bit of social anxiety, which didn't help anything. She started to record herself and record videos of herself singing and posting them on the internet. And she was a beautiful girl. She was so pretty. And so she got a lot of attention. Her parents were divorced by this point, but she goes to her mom and she asks for a webcam. And her mom says, absolutely not. Over my dead body, there's zero reason for a little girl to have access to a webcam and webcam websites. There's no need for it. Over my dead body. So what did she do? The same thing every teen person, boy or girl, does when mom says no. She went to dad. Dad said yes. Dad didn't see it as a threat. Dad didn't see the potential negatives that could come along with this young girl having a webcam. He saw it as a much bigger stage for her. And that's what she saw it as initially, was just a much bigger stage. She wanted to be able to perform not just for her YouTube channel, but she wanted to perform on websites like Blog TV, webcam websites. Now we've got Omingle and we've got, I don't know what the other ones are called. I don't do that, but TikTok Live and Instagram Live, needing a camera so that she could communicate with her fans. She got really popular really fast. And her friends would come over and they would have sleepovers and they would go on Blog TV and they would chit-chat, sing, joke with hundreds of, maybe thousands of other people. I don't want to say kids because it wasn't just kids. But they would go on and they would chat and have fun and have a great time and they loved it. And she was really popular on the internet. She had a pretty good sized following on the internet. Unfortunately, what kids don't quite get is it's not people like them on the other side of the camera. It's not people their age. It's not cute boys from their school viewing. Sure, they might be in the crowd, but there's more than that in the crowd. There's grown men who just want to watch little girls dance and watch little girls be in shorts. If you're on TikTok, look at any video of a young girl doing a dance trend or of a tiny baby eating a hot dog. How many times has that movie been saved or that video been saved? Thousands of times? You're telling me that video was worth thousands of saves? Who's saving it? Who's monitoring the kids? Nobody. Because it's not friends and family that are saving those videos. Maybe one or two, but 30,000? 20,000? 1,500? I don't think so. There's grown men collecting videos of young kids performing on the internet. It's not safe. You have to, if you're watching this and you're underage, you got to be careful of what you put out on the internet, because once it is on the internet, it will never not be on the internet. It will forever be on the internet. The photos, the screenshots that led to Amanda Todd's eventual untimely death are still on the internet. She's gone, but the photos that caused her to end her life are still out there. That's how horrible it is. When Amanda was in 7th grade, she moved in with her dad, and this is where she got the webcam. One night, by herself, she goes on to Blog TV, and she is essentially performing for about 150 people. It's mostly fun and games and not weird at all, until one person in particular starts hounding her to show her chest, harassing her to flash the camera. Now remember, through all of this, she is in 7th grade. 7th grade. Someone's hounding her to flash her chest. And she does. And in that split second of her flashing her chest, that person took a screenshot. Almost immediately after taking that screenshot, he posts it to a porn website. They are called captures. I can't remember off the top of my head what cappers, they're called cappers. And was on, I don't know if it's still going on, but on Blog TV, there's like a sub, not a subreddit, but whatever a subreddit for Blog TV would be called the Daily Capper. And it's like a news show that talks about all of the inappropriate screen grabs that were captured that day or the day before or recently, or what young girls are popular for dressing scantily or showing their chest or doing suggestive things if requested. A whole website or a whole news show dedicated to that. And unfortunately, Amanda Todd was featured on that. Shortly after the photo was posted to the porn site and showed up on the Daily Capper, the blackmailer went to Amanda and said, I want 3 more shows. If you don't give me 3 more shows, I'm going to show everybody your video. She said no, of course. She said, absolutely not. You're out of your mind. When Amanda decided not to give him the show that he requested, he went to her Facebook and sent that photo of her bare chest to everybody on her friends list. Everybody. Most people were talking trash, making fun of her. They thought it was funny. One girl thought it was horrible and showed it to her parents, and her parents called the cops, and the cops went to Amanda's house to check on her. 2010 Christmas Eve, Amanda's mom gets an anonymous Facebook message telling her that Amanda is being blackmailed and that she needs to knock it off or it's going to get bad. But this person won't tell Amanda's mom who they are or how they got this information, just that she is in fact being blackmailed. And that same day, Christmas Eve 2010, at around 4 a.m., the police go to Amanda's house and tell her that that photo is all over the internet. Now, I kind of have the same a similar-esque situation with my Tinder profile being all over the internet. I'm having strangers send it to me. I'm having friends from a million years ago come back and send it to me. My ex-husband was like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but granted, he thought it was funny and he thought my whole thing was funny. We have a pretty good relationship. We're still pretty good friends, but he was like, oh, okay, I just wanted to make sure that someone didn't steal your information. But it is on Twitter, it is on Reddit, it is on websites, blogs, YouTube, Instagram. It's literally everywhere. I've even had other YouTube channels interview me. And it started off as a joke. I watched before I came into the interview, they were talking shit about me until I came into the room to be interviewed and they realized that I'm frigging hilarious. And they've invited me back as a co-host multiple times. But before they were kind of talking trash, before they even knew me. So I could only imagine what it would be like if your entire high school and everyone you knew had a picture of your bare chest and were just relentlessly ripping you apart. After the slut shaming and the bullying and the cyberbullying started, her mental health took a nosedive. Anxiety, depression, social anxiety. She was being sexually exploited. She was being blackmailed. But nobody saw her as the victim. They just saw her as the product of something. They didn't realize or acknowledge that she's a human being. And she made a mistake. Everybody makes a mistake. And now she was paying for it in a crazy way. So much so that her parents moved. They moved into a new house. They moved her to a new school and tried to give her a fresh start. It didn't last long. Remember, she is in the 7th grade. This isn't a high school student we're talking about. This isn't a 20-something we're talking about. This is a girl in the 7th grade. Now, a year later, in 2011, Todd and her mom, Amanda and her mom, are driving in the car, and Amanda gets a Facebook message saying, you give me 3 shows, or I'm going to make sure everybody at your new school knows what you did. She showed her mom took it to the police, and all throughout this whole thing, this whole case, the police were basically like, well, if you don't want the attention, get off the internet. Zero help whatsoever. But of course, Amanda said no. Amanda said, I'm not going to show you my breasts. You're out of your mind. I'm not going to do these shows for you. So this person, the blackmailer, made a fake Facebook profile with no picture, added everybody at Amanda's new school. Teachers, the principal, added everybody. And then as soon as he had enough people, I guess, he changed the profile picture to that of Amanda flashing the camera. And then he posted a comment or whatever on the Facebook group that said, I sent this picture out to over 250 people. Let the shit show begin. And it did. Amanda was teased relentlessly, bullied, slut-shamed. She was afraid to leave the house. She was afraid to talk to anyone, afraid to go anywhere. So she had to change schools again. Now, at some point at this new school, Amanda gets a message from an old friend from one of her previous schools. This old friend invited Amanda over. His girlfriend was on vacation. I don't know if he had said that his girlfriend was on vacation or if Amanda thought that they had broken up. I don't know those details specifically, but the girlfriend was on vacation and he invited Amanda over for sex. And she went and she had sex with him. And a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people, but some people will say, well, she made the choice to go over there. She's just as culpable. She's, blah, blah. But try and put yourself in the mind of a 7th grader, an 8th grader who is being bullied and shamed and the most horrible things being said about her. She's everywhere on the internet. She's being sexualized and objectified everywhere she goes. And one person is nice to her, tells her she's pretty, she's important. Don't pay attention to all of them. Why don't you just come over, hang out with me? I'll make you feel better. She was weak. She was broken. And she made a poor choice. And she ended up having sex with that boy. Well, that boy's girlfriend found out. And the following week, the boy, his girlfriend, and 15 other people jumped Amanda Todd. They called her names. They cam whore, slut. The girlfriend was the main one who beat her up really, really bad and just left her in a ditch. To die? I don't know. Just, they didn't realize what they were doing. I don't know. But they just left her unconscious and beaten in a ditch. Luckily, her father did find her later in the ditch and was able to kind of take her home and nurse her back to health. But shortly after the attack, alone on the beach, Amanda tried to kill herself by drinking bleach. She had been through a lot. She had gotten involved with drugs and alcohol and self-harm, and it was just the world was just too much and too close. And she tried to kill herself. But she was found before she passed, and she was taken to the hospital, and she survived. And she survived after having her stomach pumped. She spent some time in the hospital kind of recovering from the event and recovering from the suicide attempt. And wouldn't you know it, when she came home, there were people talking shit about her and about her suicide attempt, wishing that she'd been successful, wishing she would kill herself. For what? For why? Because of a picture? I get it. People are mad that she slept with this dude's boyfriend, but he manipulated her too. She was easily manipulative. She was easily manipulated at that age. And people took advantage of that left and right. And then she was brutalized for it. In March of 2012, they moved again. Moved houses, moved schools, but it didn't matter. Every time they moved, the blackmailer would show up. He would go incognito, befriend everybody, and then spread her picture to everything and everyone. At one point, he sent her a message saying, something to the effect of, you think you can escape me? Everywhere you go, every school, every new friend, I'll be there unless you give me what I want. After the 3rd or 4th time of switching schools and everybody in school getting the pictures and that picture being posted to like every social media site, this is when the self-harm really amped up. She started cutting, she started doing drugs, she started drinking really heavily, like everything just took a big giant step up. She was prescribed antidepressants, which she overdosed on, and was eventually hospitalized for the suicide attempts, multiple, and the cutting and the self-harm. She was hospitalized. She was teased for her bad grades, which came from a language-based learning disability. So she was teased relentlessly for that. She was teased for the picture being out there. She was teased for being beat up. She was teased for the failed suicide attempt. She was teased for the hospital stay. They called her psycho and slut and cam whore and told her that they wish that she would die. She should kill herself, do everyone a favor, all of that. After her hospital stay, she was actually doing pretty good. The meds were on board. She was in a healthier place. The counseling was doing really well. And then she gets out. And the day she gets out, she gets bombarded by the picture, by the bullying, by people making fun of her for being in the hospital. It was just non-stop, relentless attacks from every single corner. She was afraid to leave the house. She was afraid to go on the internet. She was afraid to do anything because she was being just brutalized across the board. But she, at the time of her getting out of the hospital, she had hope. After getting out of the hospital, she booked an appointment in November of 2012 to get a tattoo. She was going to get a little tattoo on her wrist that said, stay strong, to remind her to stay strong and to remind her not to cut and not to self-harm, and that she was stronger than the gross things that were going on around her. Unfortunately, she wouldn't make it to that appointment. On October 10th, 2012, at 6 p.m., Amanda Todd's body was found hanging in her parents' home. Her dad would actually later go and get across his forearm, "Stay strong," in her memory, and he had her ashes mixed into the ink so that he could always keep her with him, which I think is unbelievably beautiful. 2 days after Amanda's death, the Gawker reporter Adrian Chen tracked down a subreddit moderator named Michael Brutesh. He ran a social news subreddit with subcategories called creep shots, where perverts would trade photos of young girls that they had pulled from the internet, whether that be screenshots from lives or from their Instagrams or their MySpaces, whatever the case may be. They traded in these photographs. It would be, a video of a girl leaning forward to grab something and her cleavage goes a little low, and they would take a screenshot of her cleavage and post it to these websites and trade them amongst the perverts on that website. After an investigation by the Facebook security unit, who filed a report with Child Exploitation and Online Protection Agency, they also attached the British National Crime Agency as well, because this guy wasn't in Canada. He wasn't in the US, but he was responsible for preying on kids in the UK, in the US, in Canada, in the Netherlands. He was blackmailing and trading these photos all over the place. In fact, in part of this Reddit group that he was a moderator for, they would talk about, this girl is ripe for the picking. There's, how do I manipulate her into showing me her boobs? And they would give each other advice on how to do that. And he was in charge of it. And he was also in possession of Amanda Todd's photo. He was in possession also of horrifying chat logs between him and children. And he had bookmarked 5,800 names of young kids. And those bookmarks served as a database on where to find these kids. There's social network information, if they went live anywhere, where to find them, pictures of them that had already been grabbed. It was like a Google Doc of all of these kids and where to find them. In 2014, April of 2014, Dutch authorities reported a 35-year-old man of Dutch and Turkish descent in the Netherlands as being the perpetrator and blackmailer of Amanda Todd. They said that it was their freedom of speech to post that stuff, that they weren't doing anything wrong. In fact, the guy responsible, the blackmailer, hired a lawyer and wanted to sue the original guy who reported him from the Gawker, wanted to sue him for defamation of character. Just completely oblivious. He's like, yeah, I did these things, but I'm allowed to. It's free speech. I'm allowed to do whatever I want. And you're not allowed to talk to me about it. It's bad about me for doing it, so I'm going to sue you. Just completely oblivious to reality and what's actually going on, and absolutely did not think that they were doing anything wrong. The blackmailer's case went to trial, and there's a couple of different names for him. There's the Michael name, and then there's another one, Adrian. One of them is his real name, and one is his fake internet name. But Adrian's case went to actual court in February of 2017. Concluded in March of the same year, he faced 72 charges of sexual assault and extortion of an alleged 39 victims in the Netherlands. 34 young women and 5 men all over the globe: Britain, the Netherlands, the US, the UK, Canada. Some of them, like Todd, had been victimized for years by this guy and his online cronies. Eventually, he was convicted and sentenced on the Dutch charges of internet fraud and blackmail. He also faced 5 separate charges in Canada, all related to Todd. Todd was not one of the 39 women that was included in the original case in the Netherlands, in the Netherlands. And it was expected that he would be extradited to Canada no more than 10 months after his initial charge, while serving his 10-year and 8th-month sentence from the Dutch court. In 2019, the Dutch authorities were talking about the extradition of the blackmailer into Canada, but he wasn't actually extradited because of paperwork issues, but he wasn't actually extradited until 2020. June 6th, 2022 is when his case for Amanda Todd actually began. On August of 2022, the jury found him guilty of absolutely all charges. And October 14th, he was sentenced to 13 years in prison to add on to the 12 years that he was already charged with or sentenced with. One of the deciding factors on giving him the absolute harshest sentence across the board was his complete lack of remorse. He did not care. He didn't think that to this day, he doesn't think that he did anything wrong. I mean, granted, he was only put in jail last year. The blackmailer harassed Todd for nearly 3 years and used 22 separate fake Facebook accounts to ruin her life. After her death, in 2012 and in 2013, they actually started making rules against bullying and cyberbullying and cyber sextortion and all of this stuff. But it was, a little late. Because the cops, while this was all happening, just told Amanda to stay off the internet. Just ignore it. Yeah, sure, they're still circulating your pictures everywhere, but just ignore it. It took her dying for them to actually make changes. But that's how it normally is, isn't it? It takes someone dying horribly for changes to actually be made. They can't make changes before people die. That would just make too much sense. A month before Amanda's death, she made an infamous YouTube video, which is still up. It was actually posted September 9th of 2009. The video was titled "My Story: Struggling, Bullying, Suicide, Self-Harm." And it's the infamous black and white video of her with white index cards and black lettering as she flips through the cards, telling her story of what happened. It got views while she was alive, but after her death, it went completely viral. In fact, she died October 10th. By October 13th, it had over 1 million views. A lot of people say that video was a suicide letter. Her parents disagree. Her parents think that was just her getting it off her chest. She was telling her story. She'd been silenced for so long, but she was just telling her story. But it just got too much. And a month later, she'd kill herself. All because of the actions of a 35-year-old man in Norway. The internet reaches far and wide. There's no escaping it. There's no escaping the grasp and the evil that's on the internet. There are a ton of other stories. There's Ryan Halgan, who hung himself because he told a secret to the wrong person and they started calling him gay, and he hung himself in his family's bathroom. There's Megan, the Megan Mirror case in 2006, I believe, and in 2007, her mom founded a nonprofit for her. She killed herself just because of the cyberbullying. We've got Jessica Logan, who killed herself. Tyler Clementi that killed himself. The list goes on and on of people who ended their lives. Teenagers, mostly. I had a hard time. I couldn't find any adults, but they say sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's not even kind of true. Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will crush your actual soul. They will take away the dignity that you have, the self-respect that you are working on or building, especially at a young age. They will restructure the way that you view yourself, and it'll make it seem like the world isn't worth living and that there's no way to get past it. When you're in high school, that's your whole world, and it seems like nothing will ever be more than high school. But for me, to whoever is watching this, especially high schoolers, if you're in high school and you're watching this, the world is bigger than high school. The world goes on for a really long time. High school is just a blimp. Just a blimp in the life that is yours. You will be there for 10 seconds in the grand scheme of things, and then you'll be gone. Yeah, you might be embarrassed by something that happened now, but a year, 6 months after you get out of high school, no one will even remember your name, let alone remember what you did. Don't trust people on the internet. Don't trust men on the internet. If a dude is telling you, you're so mature for your age, you're not. He's immature for his age. There's a reason girls his age won't date him. Don't send them pictures. Don't send erotic photos. The rule of thumb is if you don't want everybody to see it, if you're not comfortable with the whole world seeing it, don't send it to anybody. Don't send it through Snap. Don't send it through Instagram. Don't send it through Facebook. Don't post it anywhere. Once it is on the internet, it is on the internet forever. The rest of your life. Even after you are dead and gone, it will be on the internet. Now, as an adult, that's a different story. You can do whatever you want. World is chaos, and we're just feral gremlins trying to get from one day to another without, jumping off a building. But as a teenager, it's important. Because if you take a picture of yourself in your underwear, or you take a picture of your boobs or your butt, or you flash the camera at 14, that image stays 14 forever. You grow up, you move on with your life, and you go do other things. But that picture of your bare chest, that picture of your ass, that sexy picture you sent to the hot senior boy who told you were pretty, that picture lives on forever. It doesn't go away. And it can come up and haunt you years later. You stay that age forever in those photos. Don't do stuff you're going to regret, Sometimes it comes back and haunts you so hard that you feel like you need to take your life. Which is absolutely not the case. If someone manipulates you into doing something, you are the victim. You don't need to be punished. Maybe don't do it again, make better choices next time, but you don't deserve to be punished. They do. So this is the first video back. I hope you liked it. I think there's a really good moral of don't be an asshole. Don't be an asshole. Don't talk shit about people you see on the internet, because if you're going to do it, keep that shit to yourself. Don't post it in the little comments. Because you don't know how close someone is to the edge. You may call me a slut in the comments below, and I myself that night because of the comment that you made. You may never know that, but it happens. There's always that one comment that pushes those people to suicide. And maybe you didn't pull the rope or hang them up or shoot them or whatever, but could you live with yourself if you played a role in someone ending their life? I couldn't. I couldn't live with that. I couldn't live knowing that I participated in making someone so miserable that they couldn't exist one more second. So be kind to people. Be kind to strangers. You have no idea what people are going through. behind closed doors. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.